Okay, so here we are for a Cone '04 glaze. This was held at Cone '04 for about 15 minutes. So it's probably closer to a Cone '03. That's kind of what I was going for. So this is mostly terracotta in here. And the clay body is Laguna EM-106, which is the non-grog terracotta. So I've been using this clay for a little while. I've tried a few others as well. So the thing I want to mention here is this could be a disaster of a kiln unloading. If the thumbnail says it was a disaster, it was probably a train wreck because I've had issues with the slip. This is mostly like a slipware. Mostly underneath here is going to be slipware. Um, the slip tested fine in a previous firing. I used a different clay body in a previous firing, and I've been testing slip on this one. So it was fine, but in this one, some of the slip came off at the bisque, and some of it came off at the glaze here. So I can see the little pieces. I don't know if anybody can see that, but it is like small pieces of slip, and I don't know how sharp this is going to be. So the top is all the small stuff. See, this had slip on it. So that came off. It was not showing signs of peeling up during the bisque. And the bisque was done to, these were done at Cone '05 because I mainly do stoneware, and I bisque my stoneware to Cone '05 right now. And I put some of the terracotta in there to bisque, but then I also bisque some of it at Cone '04 to do a full kiln load. That's the problem when you are a stoneware potter and you want to do low fire. You have to do an entire kiln load unless you have a test kiln to test things. So that's what I'm going through right now. So I did testers for this and they were fine. So it could be that these were a little bit dry when I applied this slip. I made like, I don't know, 10 of these, and this was the only one that had no signs of the slip coming up at the bisque. I'll show you what that looked like at the bisque. I have others right here. These are just Christmas ornaments, by the way. So during the bisque, that came up. I don't know why necessarily, because they were kind of like a leather hard, a wet leather hard. So I don't know if maybe the slip itself is too dry because I did deflocculate the slip to get it to be a little bit thicker as opposed to keep thinning it down with water. So the thing that scares me about this is I have mugs in here and all kinds of things that have slip on it with underglaze decoration that took me hours and hours to do. And that's kind of the problem when you have to do an entire kiln load. You pretty much just have to do your testing, then go ahead and hope that it's all going to work out. Maybe this slip does not age very well. I have like 4 slips that I'm using, and this was the one that I decided on. I have another one in here that's a tester we'll talk about when we get to it, but this is the problem. The slip just came off, and I have some small ornaments right here that also have that, and they had no sign of problems. This is one. You can see that came off. So hopefully also you're going to be able to see this in the right way around and not backwards as well. Some of them are fine. The problem is, how do I know that this slip isn't just going to come off, at some point? Is it on there for good? Is it going to come off? Is it going to chip up? Because it comes off, if you can see, hopefully that's showing up, but it's like little razor blade pieces of glass, basically, because the slip is not well attached to the clay body. So that's scary. Don't like that so far. I'm not really sure if I will sell anything that's in this kiln mode. I don't know. I mean, these are just Christmas ornaments, so, but I would hate for somebody to have something where slip peeled up. And again, the tests were all perfectly fine. So, you know, that's the thing when you make slip or glaze or anything and it sits around for a while, um, you know, it changes. So I don't normally do low fire, so I'll be trying to figure this out. And by the way, this slip held up at cone 5 as well. I usually do like a cone 5.5. And I can put the link to the slip recipe. I got it from Glazing. And this is a piece, or one of these has a piece where it came off. I don't know what happened to it. This one, I guess. This one also has a small slip peeling up there. So it's really interesting because it was very very flat when I painted this stuff, because I painted it in the greenware stage. So this was all done in the greenware stage, and then it was just glazed. And I painted the glaze on these. So the clear glaze that I'm using is called Pete Pinnell Clear. It's a pretty easy recipe to do. It has a lot of frit. It's 3195 frit, which is a little bit expensive, and it kind of, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera, but on the bare clay, when you have thicker areas, you get a little bit of milkiness. And I've noticed that every single glaze that I've tried on terracotta does this. It's pretty hard to get a thin enough coat to get, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it's a little bit milky in a couple of areas there. So we'll see what else we have. Maybe a total disaster underneath here. I don't even know if I want to see what it looks like. The main reason that I am experimenting with low fire is for surface decoration and being able to use underglazes without losing too much color, because you still will lose some color. I just tried putting some glass. I've never done glass at low fire. That, I don't know. That looks pretty horrible. It's weird. It's almost like it didn't even melt all the way. I've never had that happen. Usually in mid-range, when you put glass in something, it expands, and sometimes it'll come right out of the piece. And this looks like it almost didn't even fully melt. I've never seen that. So I don't know. I might not be doing that either then. Most of this is going to be stilted. Let me see. Put this over here. These are some, this like a napkin holder is what I was going for, or sponge holder. And I made these really thick because this clay, which is the Laguna EM-106 terracotta, this stuff will warp on you. I mean, this is very different than mid-range. You don't have this kind of warping. You can see how this actually had plastic bags in it while it dried, and it still did this. So it's like pinching together. So I don't know. It really, really warps. I'm going to try another clay body pretty soon as well. But maybe terracotta is just something that warps a lot. I don't know. And these are both, cactus. These are okay. The colors are a little more, I don't know, loud than what I was going for, because I had to mix these. I just recently got a bunch of new colors. Most of these colors I went with Colors for Earth. Let me show you what that looks like. Colors for Earth, they are called Color Strokes. I tested these also at cone 5.5. A lot of them held up pretty well. It's the greens is where the problem really comes in. This is actually a rose color one, and this held up at cone 5.5. So the greens will often shift to brown or even just disappear completely. That happens even with the Amico Velvets. I've had good luck with some, but I really like Colors for Earth so far. I've used their, they have another line which are translucent underglazes called color concentrates, and those work really well. Also, different process because it's more like a watercolor. These are very similar to the Duncan line that is discontinued because Mako bought Duncan and they discontinued that. So these go on very smooth. They're very easy to use. They mix really well, and they're very opaque. So they are kind of a good choice, especially because these are a lot cheaper to buy than velvets. Amico velvets are very pricey now. So these I like, and these are some testers which have the clear glaze, which I had to paint on the top. So that is, I believe that is this madder rose, or rose madder, that one. So it's pretty true to the color. The greens are sort of look brown in the bottles. This is the green, let's see. And I've got all these little shards of slip down here you have to be careful with. It's called Cala Green there on the end. So this part is not glazed because I wanted to see what it would look like on the bare terracotta. Because it's actually a really nice, very similar to the Amico velvets. And nobody is talking about these underglazes. And I think it's a shame because they're affordable. It's, Paula McCoy is the one who owns the company, Colors for Earth, and she has a YouTube channel and does demos, and she probably ships everything out herself. I don't know. It seems like she's running the whole business. So these are actually amazing underglazes. So I would probably do videos just on these to show what they look like. The blues are really nice. That one I believe is called Dutch blue, and this is Potter's blue. And how could we not like something called Potter's blue? So they're beautiful, and I use them mostly, but some of these are Amico velvets because I didn't have a full color range of Colors for Earth. The browns, there's like I think a sienna, I think that's called saffron. Natural, this was a gray, and then they have it's like a speck base, so you can put a speckle, mix it in. You do it like 1-to-1 mixed in, so it will make your colors a little bit more diluted, I guess, but you can get, I don't know if it picks up on the camera too well, you can get a speckling. So this is the same slip at the top, and then it's no slip at the bottom. It didn't come off of this, so I don't know. That'll give me some hope that it's not going to be a disaster down here. So I don't know. I think I'm going to be switching the slip though. And you can see the clay has a really nice color. But I'm not real encouraged to keep using this clay just because of the amount of warpage that's happening. If anybody wants to know more about any of this, just leave a comment and I'll answer any questions about it. The reason that I want to do low fire videos, I will do some mid-range videos as well. But nobody really does a lot about low fire. So I really wanted to put some information out there because I had a hard time figuring out what I was going to do. I don't want this to be a really long video, but I do have some testers in here. I wanted to try using some glazes just on the bare terracotta with no slip. So I got some of the elements. I would prefer to make my own glazes, but it takes so long. And the low fire glaze situation is a problem because there's shortages of EPK, which is Edgar Plastic Kaolin. That's used extensively in every firing range. And there's also a Gersley borate problem, which I believe they've run out of Gersley borate and they're selling a Gersley borate blend. So Gersley borate is used a lot in low fire. It is basically kind of like used like silica, I think, because it's in a lot of the clears. Now the clear that I'm using does not have it in it because I tried to choose recipes that don't have it. So when you're going to formulate any glazes, you have to think about, can I get these materials now? Because we're in a time where materials are not really as readily available as what they used to be. So this is Blue Grotto. I believe it's an Elements glaze, and you can see that in the thicker area it did bubble a little bit. That's actually pretty nice. I was looking for more like sculptural glazes that I could use, because they're like a small, 4-ounce size. I actually have it here. This is a jungle gem, because I do have jungle gems in here too. I'm not a big fan of this whole crystal glaze thing, but how could I not get a couple of them? So they sell these in these little 4-ounce jars. The elements are available that way. This one is burnished steel. That's actually really nice. So I would use both of those for sure. But it looks like I can't really go too thick with it because, see the bubbling there. So these warped, these were going to be like sponge holders, and they just warped. I don't know if it's will sit, but they just warped pretty bad. This also stuck to the kiln shell. So I'm using them just as glaze testers. This ran, you can see here. I haven't had glazes run in years, so this is weird for me to do. This is Lotus Blossom, which is a jungle gem, I think. They have a jungle gem, and then there's another line, which is like a crystallite or something. I don't like that at all. It looks terrible on terracotta. It probably looks better on white. There are white testers in here, so we'll see some of this on white. This is Spanish moss. I don't think this is food safe, but I really wanted it for more of like a sculptural. That's a really nice green, and I would definitely use that. But it did run. These are very thick out of the jar too. So I didn't really know what to expect, but that's more of the Lotus Blossom on the red. Not really a good choice for red, but the green, the Spanish moss is, that's an element. So we also have what's called Pagoda Green, which was what the jar was, I think. That looks okay. I mean, I don't see myself doing that on here. Maybe on top of white slip it would be better. So it's just okay. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily on terracotta. And some of those jungle gems can be used to mid-range temperatures with interesting results. Let me just show you quickly. This was done at cone 5.5. What I do is I do cone 5, and I usually do like a 15-minute hold, and it's usually a very hot cone 5, and a lot of us do that. So I believe that's Lotus Blossom right there. I think it looks a million times better, but of course it's also on white clay. This is called Raised Smooth white clay. I don't know what that is because it covered up, but I think it's the Pagoda Green right there. I wouldn't bother doing it. These probably are good for overlapping, and there's crazing, which you can't really see in the video, but there's enough crazing there that I would just consider that, like, for candle vessels and things like that. I will also show you a quick couple samples of colors for earth. Color strokes. This is the clay is Laguna 608, which is what I mainly use. This is the same slip that's in this kiln load. So this slip will go from 06 to 6 if it'll stay on the clay. So you can see that the colors, even this is actually not colors for earth. This is amethyst, Amico Velvet. I might do an entire video just on how purples do in different color ranges, different firing ranges. This is colors for earth. That's, I believe, it's called Sea Mist. I had a little bit of bubbling because I did all this in greenware. So this was a green, completely gone at cone 6 or cone 5.5, we'll call it. But they do hold up. So I can do a whole other video on that if anybody wants to see that. Okay, and then I just have a bunch of small pieces here. These are Christmas ornaments. They're little cactus in pots. So I threw this part upside down like that, empty, so that area, hollow. so that it would have a bottom, which becomes the top, and then I just did a hand built. I say I just did it, but it took forever to make these. These were a project right here. This was a long project of painting these, and I had a little bit of cracking, which happens when you put the nichrome wire in. You can get cracking on things. This is actually pretty thick nichrome wire. Could have used a thinner, and it did crack because, of course, as this shrinks, it's the metal's not going to move, so it's kind of shrinking with the clay itself, and it was pushing against the edge of some of these. So I got some minor cracking, which is a shame because this took forever. So some of these I won't even be able to sell because, I guess I have a set of cacti for myself because cracking everywhere on the top. Terracotta is not a real strong clay. It's kind of difficult to work with, and this one I just did for myself because the pot was too different than the others. So like a little sculptural thing. So that's kind of cool. And the color's a little bit dark because I had to mix the greens. I don't think I'm making those again. They took way too long to do. I just got a new order of colors for color strokes and with some different greens in there. I don't even know if any of these are any good because there's cracking on all the top of them. So that's the life of a potter right there, We think we are doing it until the glaze fire, and then we have nothing because it cracked. So, terracotta is definitely not like stoneware. You have to baby it a lot. Slow dry. So I'm going to be really careful with these because this has all kinds of sharp stuff all over it. I'm just going to let it go on the ground and sweep it up later. Okay, I don't see any major disasters yet. All this sharp stuff. Okay, this was just like a sculptural piece that I did. It didn't go well. So, it was for me anyway, but I probably should have done something there with glaze because what I did is I dipped this in slip. I would never do that again with something like this. I would paint it on. And this actually has a Duncan underglaze. It looks probably better on the camera than it does in person. It's kind of weird looking little angel sculptural thing for the garden. And, you can put crystals or something in there, little offerings in there. Not my favorite. All right, talking about projects. These Santas were inspired by Tiffany with Hobble Creek. It's a YouTube channel that you should definitely check out if you haven't seen Hobble Creek. Hers were hand built. Anytime there's a hand building project, I try to make it into a throne because I do mostly throwing and I don't enjoy hand building. So the color of this one, I believe, is it's just called purple, or no, this is violet. This is violet Amico velvet, and I use that because that holds up all the way to cone 6. So this is called Snowfall by Mako. It's a specialty glaze. I'm trying to see if it actually is going to stay on here. So I did this. It'll go to cone 6, and it will add dimension to what you're doing. Let me show you the sample. This is just on bare clay. This is Snowfall on my really speckled clay at cone 6. Well, cone 5.5. But it will go to cone 6 and kind of looks better, I think, at the higher range because it's more separated on here. See how, I don't know if you can tell, it kind of separated more. So it wasn't, I had to put it on pretty thick. And the thing about this stuff is it's like marshmallow coming out of the jar. So you can't be too, fine about what you're doing. You have to just like push it on with the brush. So it wasn't real fun. I kind of think it took away from this a bit. I don't know that I would do it again. I was planning on making ornaments, but with Snowfall, it's an interesting thing, but I don't know. I kind of think just the underglaze painting is best. So, and I threw these like a cone, and I think in the future I would go ahead and have it have a bottom with like a, almost like a small hole that's thrown into it on the bottom instead of just an open bottom like that. And then you can stilt fire it, which would be easier to do. So that's Snowfall, and next one, they all have that on it, which I now regret doing, of course, because it looks kind of bad. So this one was done with white slip, so the slip stayed on, yeah, and the Snowfall kind of, see that? It's kind of coming off. I'm not real sad, so I can just take that off. I don't know, that this is weird. Really weird stuff to be using. Don't recommend it at this temperature because it looks like it'll just come off. So you're supposed to put it on over your clear or whatever glaze you're using. You can't really do it any other way because it's very, very thick. It is like, I don't know, sticky is the only word I can think of. So this was Colors for Earth Dutch Blue, but there's slip underneath it. And what I did is I waxed the spirals, and then I put the Colors for Earth on top of it, and then of course it resisted on the wax to get that look. And without the Snowfall, I think I would have liked it a lot better if I had just, because I did underglaze the beard white just in case it showed through, which it does, and it doesn't look good like that. So this is not a real useful glaze unless you're supposed to be much thinner about it than what I did. That could be, because it does look really, really thick. Tells you to put it on with a brush or like a paint, you know, like a, what do they call them? I can't even think of what it's called, but it's like a spatula, a paint spatula. That's what they tell you to do. It's too bad. I don't really like the way that looks. His looks even worse because it looks like just a big crack going down the beard. So I'm just gonna do the underglaze painting. This is Dragon Red Mako. Let me see that. That is not good. So it fell off. It didn't even stay on. So I guess these are just going to be pieces that I use for reference because it comes off. Not good. I guess I could try refiring it. I mean, that's an option, but too bad. It does make a nice, you know, contrast there, but I don't even know how to use them because if they're just going to bubble up and fall off, it's pointless. I guess I can see why nobody really uses that stuff. This is the Pete Pinnell Clear, but it has black iron oxide in it, which will make, you know, the terracotta a lot darker and richer looking. But when you use slip, which I don't have an example of it because I just was testing the batch that I made. When you put slip, it's going to give you like a yellowy kind of honey tone on the white part. So that's what I was going for. And the test batch that I had made, the black iron oxide did not break down enough. So it kind of shows up a little bit here. You won't be able to see in the camera, I don't think, but it looks speckled, slightly speckled. It's like it doesn't, it's like hydrophobic or something. It doesn't really break down. So this was, you know, sieved and mixed really well with the mixer, but it looks okay. Yeah, I think it looks okay. So I'll probably be doing some pieces of that later on the next firing. Okay, so this is the stuff that took forever. So there's definitely some milkiness with the glaze because it was too thick in some spots. This is a sponge holder. There's a little bit of cracking at the bottom of this, which is really weird. It's probably not going to show up. It's inside. There's like minor cracking. Not even sure if I can sell that. Both sides are painted. So if anyone watches Vaughan Smith and Jackie Cohen from Nova Scotia, this is their method. And I've been very encouraged by pretty much everything that Vaughan and Jackie do because they have a lot of experience, and they're probably one of the few potters with experience like that that's making YouTube videos. This is done using paper cutouts. You draw your images on the paper, cut out the paper. You can use an X-Acto knife, you can use scissors. I've tried everything. Has to be very, very thin paper. Like they use phone book paper, which is, you can't even get phone book paper now. So you have to use any type of thin, almost like magazine type paper. It will bleed a little bit if it's slightly glossy. So like this one, I painted the hummingbird area. Like you just paint a big blob, and you can kind of see how it's not that well painted there. And that's kind of the effect that you're going for, is more of a painterly look. You put the paper on wet, so this should be a little bit wet. Your slip should still have some moisture to it. I think they do very, very like wet slip decoration. And then you put the paper down, and you have to like brush on top of the paper to lock the paper down. The flowers were done that way, leaves were done that way, and it's a layering process. So you need the more opacity to your underglazes, the better, because you do get some variation. I mean, sometimes I intentionally try to get some variation. You can see it pretty well during the time that you're painting. But sometimes you really can't. Like if you're using different blues, or the purple can be somewhat blue, or the greens can look similar. So sometimes you can't tell what the effect is that you're actually going to get, which is part of the fun. And the more that you know your colors, the better. So I did a few of the sponge holders that way. We have a sheep one. Okay, it's not the easiest thing to do. It takes a lot of time and not patience as much, because it's just a process that you have to like tell yourself you're going to do. And that's really why I'm doing low fire, is to use underglazes. So I did a cactus one, and you can see like a little bit of the color of the sun there, because you paint a circle. Then you put it's like a mask or a stenciling process, just of a circle, and then you have to paint over the circle with the blue. So basically whatever you put down first is the foreground. So you would think it's the opposite, but it's, like the cactus was done first. So you paint that because you want that to be the image that stands out. So it's a great process, but it takes some time. It takes some patience. And, these are painted on both sides. So I don't even know if I can sell them, because I would have to get like $40 for a sponge holder at least. It's probably not even anywhere as close to what it needs to be. So horses here. Thing I'm glad about is the slip stayed on. So there's that. This is Colors for Earth. I think it's called Sea Mist. And I put the speckle base into that. So that is a really interesting thing about Colors for Earth, is she has the speckling base if you want that look. Probably you could use it with any underglaze, but I don't know. I'm not sure how compatible everything is. So I'm happy with those, except for the hummingbird had a little bit of cracking on the bottom. Let's see, and I also have a mug here, which this is just an experiment, so don't think I'm gonna decorate like this. I really just want to see purples. So the whole point of this is a clay body that I made. White clay bodies for low fire are just terrible. I mean, they have high absorbency rates. Artists really don't use them because of that, unless it's sculptural. And the sculptures are probably not real durable as a result. So what I want to do is just make small pieces. I probably won't make functional pots with this. This doesn't sound like it's vitrified enough. So this is basically what's called fritware. And fritware is going to be in the low range of firing. This is This one is a low fire porcelain. I did a video carving a piece with this type of clay. I don't make much of it at one time. I'm making like 1,000, maybe 5,000 grams at the most at a time. I'm going for a white, the whitest possible that I could get, and that looks like that's it. So this is a tile 6 kaolin based fritware. If anybody wants the recipe to this, I will provide it, but I think it needs more frit to be more vitrified. There's another clay body that I tried that's more like a stoneware. And let me just get that because I want to show you the difference. I actually like this clay body much better. This was done in the previous fire, and this has LG10 by Amico, the clear, and that is amethyst underglaze. This was done 04 bisque, 05 glaze. I can't wrap my head around that because I'm a stoneware potter typically, and it's the opposite way of doing it. But this is way more vitrified. This has OM4 ball clay, so this does not have a kaolin in it. This is a really nice clay body. I would use this, I think, over the other one because I'm going to have to add more frit to this to get it to be a tighter clay. I've used some recipes that are out there on the internet, and I got a lot of crazing. So this is like talc, 40%, tile 6, 50%, and probably 10%. Yeah, it's 10%, 3195 frit. So that's the 100%. And I didn't put any bentonite in this because the tile 6 that's out there right now is very plastic. So this throws fine. It's not great because it's kind of weak as far as you can't hand build with this. This would be like ridiculous to hand build with. That's why putting like a pulled handle, it has like a little bit of weird sort of cracking in there. I will probably use this mug, just see what happens. See if this is the Pete Pinnell Clear that's on this one. I had a lot of crazing on the previous, I did a couple months ago of a clay body that I got a recipe for, but this one is sort of a takeoff of a recipe that I found, which was like a 50 OM4 and then 50% talc. I just take down some of the talc and put in frit to tighten up the clay body. And that worked for this, and this has no crazing, and this I like. It's much warmer, if you can tell. But I was going for the whitest thing. This would be good for like Christmas ornaments or candle holders. I would, I'm making this clay body, so I would test this forever before I made a mug. And I don't have a pug mill, so I can't de-air this the way that it needs to be done. But it's fine. This is more like a trinket dish. That would be how I'm going to sell this. I'm not selling this for food. You can't control what happens after you sell it. I think it would be fine for food because it is more vitrified. But it's really interesting to make your own clay bodies. You can do like very, very small batches for specialty things. Or if you have the facility to, some clay centers will have clay mixers and pug mills and stuff, or some studios have it. So you could do it. It's a lot of work, and this is a specialty. This is really for like specialty work, I think, because you cannot buy fritware clay. It doesn't age well. I guess the frit, they call it like thixotropic. It like sinks to the bottom of the clay. So if it sits for a long time, it just hardens up. I had it happen too. I had a few samples that I kept, and they were like hard as concrete after about a month. So you have to make this in small batches, use it very quickly, and that's it. The kaolin based one, this is low fire porcelain, by the way. That's what you call this. It is porcelain. People will argue that, but the more vitrified I can get this, the more porcelain like it will be. I will add probably 10 more percent of frit to this batch, this type of recipe, to get it to tighten up. Now it probably will affect what the glaze looks like because you're going to get crazing after a while. This has incredible green strength. It's like very, very hard in the green stage. This one, not as much. This was a little bit more delicate to work with, but you can go very thin and even get translucency with low fire porcelain. I didn't go real thin with this. I'm not that interested in translucency. You'd probably have to use New Zealand kaolin as opposed to tile 6. EPK, like I said earlier, can also be used. But like I said earlier, it's in a shortage right now. Let me just clear out some of this. I'm going to stop the camera here, take this out, and do the next level. Okay, we're back. Let's see. I think we can see enough. This is actually in another video. I'm going to do a whole video with just this. This is a tile. So there'll be like an entire video of how I made it. But this was made using the paper method, the masking method, with the same slip that I was worried about. So the slip has stayed so far for everything else. And I went ahead and just glazed this entire thing. It was a little bit easier than trying to, you know, wax the back of it and have to pour the glaze on. So that's a decorative tile is basically what I'm saying that is. You could use it as a trivet, I guess. This did stay pretty flat though, but at this thickness, you know, something flat is usually pretty good. And I stilted it. It was on a stilt. Okay, so this is the Redware. This was on a stilt, but it came right off. That's one of the nice things about low fire. So I had a video of carving that, and no, that's not vitrified enough for me. I will have to do an absorption test and all that, but it won't be with this particular recipe. This will be fine for like Christmas ornaments and stuff, or trinket dishes. That's amethyst from Amico. That's the underglaze I use, and then just carve through it. Wasn't great for carving. It seemed to be a little bit too, you know, I don't know what the word would be, but it's kind of like fluffy when you make clay yourself and it doesn't go through a pug mill. It has probably too much air in it. It's wide enough. It's definitely wide enough. See, frit will kind of go more off-white when you add frit to a clay body, because if you don't add frit, the absorbency of this would probably be like, you know, 15% or something high like that. And it's more about the durability for me. So this didn't have great durability after being bisque fired to cone 05. So I wasn't real happy with it. We'll see here on the test tiles. This is Pagoda Green, which is one of the jungle gems. I think it's really ugly, to be honest. It's really not too bad, but it's kind of more like an army green background, which I don't think is what it showed. But, you know, they do say that they're more of like, I think they say they're 06 is like the samples that they show. So it probably discolored. There's some bubbling and weirdness. So I had hoped to just have a couple of interesting glazes to use, either on the white or directly on the terracotta. This is the Blue Grotto element on white, which I call it low fire porcelain, is this particular one. Not great. It just looks like a gray with some slight blue in it. I don't know why anybody would want to use that. So this one's good, Lotus Blossom. So this looks very similar to, let me get the sample again. Sorry, this is a long video apparently. So there it is at cone 5.5. And I'm calling this cone 03 because I held this for long enough that I'm pretty sure it was an 03 as far as the heat work goes. I don't have any of the cones in here, witness cones, because they were out of the low fire ones, probably because the schools buy them. So I don't have any low fire cones at the moment. So that's something that I need because I really need to know where I'm at with this. It definitely was an 04, but held for like 15 minutes. And I saw that the temperature was like 1955 and it was holding at that. So this actually looks true to the samples that Mako shows. That's pretty good. That's actually interesting. It's kind of gaudy for me. I don't typically go for that, but I like the colors that they chose for that one. And then I did some on flat tiles as well. This is, I do have some debris on that. This is the terracotta. And I did it flat because I thought I wanted to see, you know, how what they call, let's do it like this, crystals. They're actually just glaze that hasn't been fired. It's been like what they call calcined. And they're like little hard things that they call crystals. This is pagoda green again, flat, not so good. Not so good. This is a lid for a jar. Coming up, it's kind of matte, so I don't know why. I've noticed that sometimes underglaze will, you know, it's going to flux a little bit because it's fritted usually. So the higher that you bisque to, that's why I don't, you know, Vaughan Smith in Nova Scotia talks about bisquing this exact same clay to Kono 1. And I want to ask him why his underglazes will still accept clear, because they kind of don't. Depending on which ones you use, they kind of like start to flux. I've had it happen a little bit doing the mid-range clay, bisquing it, and then having it be a little bit too vitrified or fluxed, I guess. And then it doesn't accept the clear so well. So it happens here too because this has been bisqued to 04 basically, most of this. So I don't know if I should be bisquing lower. I really don't know how to do low fire. This is like weird experiment. These are just jar lids for what's underneath here. Getting some milkiness, you can see right there. What happens is, because this doesn't accept glaze well, because it was bisque to cone 04, it doesn't absorb in like you would expect your mid-range clay to just absorb the glaze and then it dries down. And you find this will actually drip, especially because this is a glaze that has a lot of frit in it. It's like 70-something% frit. It's frit is like, you know, it just suspends because it's like tiny little particles of glass that's suspended. It basically just like runs down while you're waiting for it to dry. And as a result, you get like drips on the bottom. The mugs under here had that, and I don't know what they're gonna look like, but I don't know how to remedy that other than bisquing really, really low, which I kind of would like to do. I don't know that the clay would work well that way because a red clay, like if you do stoneware and you bisque low, let's say you're bisquing an 06 and it's a red clay, you'll often get problems with your glaze because the impurities from the clay have not come out or have been like cooked out. So they'll pass through the glaze and you'll get like pinholing and cratering and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know if that would happen with this or not. But most potters do not, at least in the low fire range, they usually bisque higher than their glaze. I thought maybe it's because of warping, because this terracotta will warp. So you bisque low, glaze it, then say the glaze firing will be like 03. You might have a ton of warpage that happens, and then you've done all this work and it warped. These were just little ornaments, and I put the burnished steel elements glaze on there, and they're not glazed on the back, and that's actually not bad. It's nothing special, but it does have a metallic. I'm amazed that you can get metallics in the the lower range, especially, you know, they're non-toxic. So this was just a sample tile. I'm going to see what the shrinkage rate. It was 9% at cone 05, so I wanted to test 05, as well as doing what I'm going to call 03. So this was a different slip, and this is the slip that I think I'm going to use. And it's actually Pete Pinnell Forgiving Slip. Now the firing range from the source I'm getting says 04, and that's it. But I've seen others say that it's higher. So why would I want to use this? Because it can be put on at any stage, including bisque. This slip was put on a bisque tile. Okay, that actually stayed on. And then I put the Pete Pinnell Clear, so I guess I'm using Pete Pinnell everything now. Put the clear on top of the raw, unfired slip, which I didn't think was going to work. I was expecting total disaster there, but no, it's you know what? I think I actually did bisque fire this again. I might have. I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't remember if I bisque fired it. So, kind of don't think I did. I kind of think I just dipped it or brushed it on and then brushed on some glaze. So this slip to me is way more versatile than any of the others. If you can put it on at the bisque stage, and basically it's an underglaze, you know, and not have a problem, that's a win for me. Of course, that's what the tester shows. I don't know what reality will be, because I did testing with the other slip and didn't have luck entirely. So this is just it's one of the underglazes. I didn't bother recording it because I just wanted to do a clear test, have that available, of my clay that I make. And this is just the Pete Pinnell Clear. So it actually does shift it to more of an off-white. That's one of the problems I've noticed with any clears. You know, you think it's going to be totally clear, but it does give a shift of off-white. But it's actually really nice. It's just this clay body is not vitrified enough, I don't think, to go ahead with it as it is. Okay, I'm just going to move a few things out of the way, and we're going to do the bottom shelf. I can do this fast because I don't want to have to stop the camera again. Splicing video together is not fun. So bear with me a minute. I'm going to take that shelf out, hopefully without stopping the camera. This is a very long video compared to what I thought it was going to be. One more kiln shelf. Let's see if I can get in here. It's not hot, by the way. And get that out of here. Okay, I'm not going to celebrate yet because I have to see if everything happened the way it's supposed to happen. So for me, this clay is vitrified enough for me at this temperature because I've been testing this for a while. So I was going for a camo look. That's why I had recently just ordered more colors, because I didn't have the right colors. The green is too pale, but it looks like camo. I did get this. This is Mako. I think it's called Chestnut Brown. I really do not like the Mako underglazes. They have like an oily consistency to them. You get this inconsistent kind of, I don't know if the camera can see it. I think you can. It just goes on inconsistently, and this had 2 coats. I didn't want 3 coats because I didn't want it to be like an overpowering brown. I just don't like the way it covers. I'll probably keep this mug because it's, you know, it doesn't look like what I had hoped it would look like. So I painted this at the bisque stage. So this has white slip underneath, which probably is totally unnecessary, but I had a mug that had white slip on it, and I decided to bisque fire because I could not do any more underglaze painting It was just, once you see the other mugs, you'll see why. So this went on at the bisque stage. So there was slip, fired it, bisqued it to 04, then did the underglaze painting, which is easier because, you know, the bisque will absorb better than the greenware does. This is a start. I want to do camo patterns mugs. It's a little bit worse fired than what it looked like in the greenware or the bisque stage. So yeah, that's that one. Okay, so this is one of the jars. I should have grabbed a spoon, but so this actually looks pretty good. This I had no plan on what this was actually going to look like. It started as something and then it went to something weird. So it's weird. I just did layers of colors, and then, you know, these are cutouts of paper, and then it was carved through all the way to the clay body. Did not do anything with the inside for this one. I don't think I did with the others either, but you know, you could do the inside of color if you wanted to. I wanted it to be not too much. I think it is too much, but this is for a spoon. I'm trying it where it's like a pocket, and then the wooden spoon would go into the pocket. And I'd have to go get them to show what it looks like, but not bad. I think it's not my taste, even though I made it. You know, the colors are more, I guess they're just a little too bright for me, because, you know, when you make it, they're not this bright. You don't really know if you're going to get that kind of color, but I did. So I did one also with chickens. So these were done with paper cutouts, and it's supposed to kind of look like a basket of flowers or a planter there. Chickens all the way around. That's pretty good. And this was the lid, which was fitting weird originally, but that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm encouraged by that. So yeah, that's a pretty good amount of colors for me. It's a lot of colors. I don't do anything like this in stoneware because obviously you're going to lose colors, and it kind of gets gaudy. You know, it can get gaudy pretty quickly. Sometimes you just have to let it be. You know, you have to go with it and let it be gaudy. So this is unfortunately the glaze bubbled right there. I don't think I'm too upset about it. It kind of was resisting. This is Colors for Earth. I think it's called Sienna. That brown, which is kind of an orangey brown, it was resisting the glaze probably because it fluxed a bit, and I could see it when it was glazed. It was kind of like beating up a little bit, and that's exactly how it has fired on. If the camera picks that up, I don't know. See that beating? So it's like a texture, but it is the door. So I'm gonna go with it on that one. I don't think refiring is too much of an option. The glaze ran down, so the clear glaze ran down, beat it up, and you get milkiness when that happens. But yeah, it's the bottom. I don't think I'm too upset about it. I like the clay color. It's interesting. And the lid is that. So I went a little crazy there. I wouldn't do the lids this way again, but I don't know. It's kind of cool anyways. It's not what I thought it was going to look like exactly because the greens really blended in. See on the trees there? So this was sponged on, and of course this was a paper cutout. I did paper cutouts for the windows and went around with black. I think the greens are not showing up as much as I hoped they would. But it's subtle, it's okay. I think there's going to be a lot of experimenting with underglazing, especially at this temperature. So this is not coming off so well. I'm not sure why. So one of the things when you take stilts off, you can really cut yourself with stilts. Because sometimes there will be a little piece of glaze that will stick to them. And it's like, yeah, that actually does have it. It's like a razor blade piece of glaze. You do not really want to, you know, you really pay attention when you take them out. I'm going to take this off with a pair of pliers. I have cut myself doing this before. At mid-range, when you stilt, you definitely, that came right off. You definitely will get pieces of glass glaze that are like little discs on top. So unfortunately, this is sort of matte here. So the glaze did not take to that as well as I had hoped. I'm probably gonna have to refire this. It's also kind of matte around the edges. So I don't know if it's this underglaze, which is amethyst. I use a lot of amethyst. You almost use the entire jar. So my spaceman design with the paper masking technique, which is what everything else is as well. And then the bottom. So probably we'll try refiring, reglazing that. I don't know when I'm doing another low fire, but we'll see. See if I can take this off. I feel, unfortunately, a little bit of matte on there. It's not too bad though. It's just a little bit rough right there. This one's a cat one. First time I'm actually seeing it as well. Nice cat design. I don't know that I will do mugs in terracotta. I don't know if it's worth it. You know, I'm glazing the bottom like you should do. There are some potters that don't do that with this, but you know, it's vitrified, and I've been using mugs on my own for testing with no problems using it in the microwave, which you don't really want to recommend using it in the microwave. But hand washing only is what I'm doing, and I've had no problems. So, and I even dropped my mug that I have, just sort of like a plain mug. Okay, let's see if I'm gonna try to stay out of the camera. Okay, so this was my favorite one of everything that I made. This is the hummingbird one. That came out great. So this, I believe, is all colors for earth on here. Underglaze, which they call color strokes. Maybe not the purple. Sorry, the purple is not. That's amethyst because I just now got purple from Colors for Earth. So these colors are really, really good. Now I might have blended their color concentrates in. That lime color under there is probably the color concentrate, which are translucent underglazes. So you would only start with those. You don't really want to put those on top of an opaque. I don't know if you even can do that. I'm not sure. You know, hummingbird on both sides. The clear glaze is pretty good on this one. It's a little rough on the top here. I don't know why that's happening. If it's just the glaze is coming down, I may have to try bisking lower. I really don't know. I think with thrown pieces it probably would work okay, but that came out pretty nice. And before I forget, don't forget to like and subscribe. This would help my channel out if you do that. This is all new channel up. So this I did at the bisque stage. I don't know if I can fix this or not. This was so much work. This is a wizard in, you know, mountain trail wizard is what I was gonna call him. So to tell you how I did this quickly, well, nothing has been quickly so far, but I did the paper masking method at the greenware stage over the slip. I waxed this just like I did with the Santas earlier. This was waxed and then put the color over it. So you're seeing the white slip right there. Now I should have done it a different way looking at it right now, because then what I did is I bisque fired it to 04. But then I had to apply the white beard on him there because this was wax. So I wouldn't have been able to put this all on the greenware stage. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but the clear glaze did not take to what would have been raw underglaze. It's like it just didn't even work. But I'll try reglazing this. You know, you have to expect you're gonna reglaze when you are doing new stuff, new techniques. It's just the way it works. I don't like how that came out. at all, really. But that's Mako yellow. I don't know what it's called. It goes on just like the others do. You know, you think you have a nice coat of it and you have all these brushstroke marks. So I'm definitely going to be using Colors for Earth, I think, going forward. And maybe some Amico as well. I have quite a lot of Amico velvet. Okay, so again, sort of rough feeling. I have to ask Vaughan why he doesn't have this problem, but he said that he bisques really high to cone 01 and he thickens his glaze so that, you know, because the clay is not going to take any glaze, it would sit on the top, basically just sits like a coating on the clay, and it takes like a day to dry. And this took a day to dry too, and I actually did a really long preheat on this, like 5 hour preheat, because I didn't know, I just didn't want to have any exploding pots that had moisture in them. So I wanted to do an astronaut in different places, not just space, but you know, I wanted to do like a lush garden with an astronaut in it. So that's what we have there. So this is that same method that you will see Vaughan Smith and Jackie do in Nova Scotia. So that is the entire kiln load. This is like an hour-long video, so sorry about that. So if you have stayed this far, thank you, and stay tuned for more firings like this, and maybe some. Also, I'll do some kiln unloadings for stoneware as well. So definitely like and subscribe, and any questions, please comment below. I'll try to put some links to the products here, which I'm just going to do Colors for Earth because a lot of people do not know about Colors for Earth, and I'll put a link to that. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.